Hello, everyone. It's Make a Move Mike, the Veterans Realtor of Realty Executives Dylan. I'm here with Andy Cruz, as always, of Mortgage Heroes. And today we're going to be discussing 5 home buyer mistakes to avoid. Number 1, do not fall in love with the home until after closing. What I mean by that is don't mentally move into the property until you've absolutely certain or actually sitting at the closing table. And here's why. If you fall in love with that home and move into that property mentally, it's going to limit your ability to negotiate. So when that time comes for you to ask for credit for repairs, whether that be termite repairs or repairs from the physical inspection, you want to leave yourself some room mentally and leverage mentally to be able to have the nerve and the take action and actually negotiate, because that's what this process is all about. You're not just saying, hey, here's what I'm buying the home for, and the seller accepting. There's a lot of terms in the purchase agreement that you as a buyer and homeowners as sellers can negotiate throughout the entire transaction. So,
and you don't want to be overrun by your emotions.
Right.
Yeah, because sometimes what is factually happening can be more important than the emotions you're feeling about what's happening.
Exactly.
So sometimes when there's really critical decisions to make, you don't want to have that impediment where you're like so emotionally overcommitted that you're avoiding actual problems or things that need to be addressed in the transaction.
Yes, and because what that'll do is that'll leave you with problems that you eventually have to deal with after you close.
Right.
If you can get some credit or get some repairs completed by the seller prior to closing, then that's great for you. So and that's what you want, so you can avoid having to potentially spend more money out of pocket and maybe even some headaches here in the future after closing. So and not just that, you can also lose your leverage from moving in that property mentally. So you allow me to use my skills, expertise, and strategies to help you get to that closing table and close before you fall in love with that home. Okay, so number 2, waiving inspections and appraisals. You want to be careful about doing this because it can leave you with more problems to deal with in the future.
At risk.
Yes, and it puts you at risk as well. And that's something you really want to kind of limit. Putting yourself at risk during this during the home buying process.
So they're there as a vetting process. They're a part of the vetting process anyways. Yes. That they have a specific intended purpose. So I know you're going to that. I'm sorry. It just dawned on me. I'm like, why would we be eliminating things that are actually there to protect and preserve you from falling headlong and headfirst into risk as a buyer?
Exactly. And now, if you're a general contractor and you can fix all these things that may be exposed or you may find out about during the home inspection, and that's great. That'll work for you to waive an inspection or two.
But that's only one of like a handful of exceptions that are very minimal.
Yes.
Unless you literally have the skill set, experience, and capability to repair some of the things that might come up on a report, you need the report to know what's going on.
Exactly.
You need to know what's wrong, because you're not going to be able to see everything. Again, if you're mentally focused on all the other parts of the transaction, you're actually buying someone else's focus, attention, and expertise to help clear and pave the way for you to feel confident moving forward.
I like that. Buying someone else's focus and expertise.
Yeah.
So that's a great analogy.
Some people think it's just this like big paper and this report. And you're like, no. There's a lot of time and attention and detail that goes into that. Like, you think like, oh, the doctor comes out with one piece of paper. Like, okay, well, that wasn't a lot of work. Well, they're a doctor. Like, it's you know what I mean? We don't do that in other situations.
Yes, that's true. That's true. So number 3, everyone, when it comes to selecting a lender, don't always go for the lender that offers the lowest rate. I think you want to find a lender that's going to educate you throughout the entire process, answers their phone on the weekends, and not someone that just tells you what to do during the process. You want that lender to kind of discuss the type of programs that are available and why you're doing this versus doing something else.
Well, I mean, every lender or bank, they have like their lowest rate, and that's a day-by-day thing. Sometimes that's hour by hour. I mean, you could have a conversation with us in the morning, and then in the afternoon, if there's been an interday rate change, it's literally changed.
Yes.
And then the other thing is, you could have the conversation and be sold a low rate on day number 1. But by the time you get to day number 13 or 15, things have changed.
Yes.
And the thing that is so frustrating sometimes is that there are material changes that occur during a transaction that can affect pricing. And sometimes it has to do with you and not the bank. And sometimes it has to do with the bank only. And sometimes it's a combination of both. And then you're talking about the exposure to the open market, which is trading every single second that the market's open Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
So right now we're making this video. Guess what? The market's moving. I can go back to the office right now and I could walk into different rate pricing than I left before I came here to record this with you.
Oh yeah.
So it's not the only thing. Is it important? Yeah, of course. I want the lowest rate as a consumer too. However, it is one piece within the context of everything else that's going on.
Yes.
Getting the lowest rate and being unable to close does not help you.
Yes, it does not help you if you don't close. That
That's
lowest
right.
rate just
That's right.
goes out the window.
That's right. And another thing too is, I'm going to say this pretty boldly. There are a lot of people that get up in arms and they get all upset because their credit score is low and they can't get the lowest rate possible. There's a difference between advertised rates and qualified rates. Advertised rates are to entice people to come in and make an application, go through the process. But if you come in and that advertised rate is for a 740 credit score or above, and you coming in hot with a 605, that's not going to be the same thing, and we ought not treat it that way. As a actual true professional, you explain that to people and you show the difference and you have this conversation so that that customer has a realistic expectation of what's going on related to their specific circumstances, not what the advertisement says.
Right. And
that's what should be happening.
Exactly. And what you mentioned was, I want to point out, is that being an expert and having a strategy and having experience is key when you're going through this process, because as Andy mentioned, things do change, things will change. The price and the final settlement costs is kind of like a moving target. Things kind of go up and down, down, just depending on the date you can close.
Even the day of the month you close changes how much interest is collected, how much insurance is prorated, how much taxes are due.
Yes.
So all that moves, even if it's just by one day.
Yes, and another thing is, you want to use a lender that's going to reach out to the other side, the listing agent, and kind of let them know that you're a great client, that you're going to close on time. And the proof is in the pudding. It kind of sets a precedence with with the listing agent that, hey, these guys are serious. Their intention is to close. They're going to do everything that they say they're going to do. And that's one thing that's great about working with Mortgage Heroes, is because each transaction that I've had a buyer with them, they always reach out to the listing agent and constant communication with them, always updating them and providing with them with daily statuses and making sure there's nothing, there's no room for
misinterpretations, gaps in communication, all that stuff. It's important because you're literally working together as a team to accomplish a goal. The seller side of the team wants to sell cleanly. The buyer side wants to buy cleanly, and it takes everyone to make that happen.
Yes, and certainty is what it kind of helps alleviate uncertainty. Because when you have that on the other side, they're all wondering like, I haven't heard from him in a while. Maybe there's an issue. So
there's risk in sellers taking a buyer's offer.
Yes.
They have to trust that it's actually going to close because they're taking their house off the market to close the offer that you made.
Exactly. And so the next thing, number 4, is not being flexible when you're purchasing the home. So, and what I mean by that is, I'm not saying that you should settle for just any home or a home that you don't really want.
Right.
You got to be flexible about some of the things that you want within that home. I always suggest that a home buyer focus on location, the schools, if they have children, the neighborhood, things that are important from that standpoint. The aesthetics of the home and the interior, the upgrades, those things can kind of take a back seat sometimes depending on the market.
A lot of times,
Because if you get the home that you really love, it just doesn't have those few things, but it's in a great neighborhood, it's checking all the other boxes, you can do all those upgrades later and save yourself a headache of continuing to look for that perfect home.
And miss out.
You can't move a home from one neighborhood to the neighborhood that you want to be in.
But people sacrifice this. Go, I don't like the paint color. Oh my gosh, you mean a gallon of paint that costs $20? Like that's not worth missing out on a $600,000, $700,000 house that you want in the right neighborhood with the right commute from your work, with the amenities that you're hoping for and the floor plan you want, number of bedrooms and bathrooms, and then you're like, oh, but I don't like the carpet in the front room. rip it out.
Yes.
Like it always used to get me when I first started in this career. It always used to get me people like go look at a house like, yeah, the house is great. I just don't like the color. I'm like, that is like the easiest thing to change.
Yes, you can definitely change flooring. You can change the paint colors. You can change the
even
countertops.
move walls. It's a little more, but yeah.
Everything on the interior of the home can be changed, especially if you do it properly. It can be done right.
To your credit, Mike, like it's harder to just like uproot that house and try to move to a new. That's not.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
Exactly. So avoid doing that at least. So number 5, everyone, have a definite budget. So you want to have a definite budget prior to finding a home. The lender, for the most part, is going to identify your debt to income ratio to help you get pre-approved for the loan in order to purchase. But there's some other things that you got to consider. I think you all know what they are, but in case you don't, the things that aren't normally factored in are the cost of fuel monthly from driving to and from work, dropping your kids off at football, soccer, baseball practice, whatever it may be, child care costs,
utility costs if you're going from one house size to a larger house size.
All things that come into account for your cost of living and your quality of life. I should say those things are important.
And that sounds like we're saying here, like, hey, don't overbuy. Like, our job's to help you get into a house, but not get you into a house that you're going to lose in 6 months or a year.
Right.
So it can kind of come across like, oh man, these guys don't sound really interested in like trying to get us max qualified. No, you can get max qualified on paper. However, you need to also take into consideration the other expenses that come along with the decision you're making to get max qualified and to buy a house at $600,000 or $700,000, $800,000. It doesn't just come with the mortgage and the taxes. There's other stuff that, what about if the house has a pool? Well, now there's maintenance for the pool. And then there's expense if you're gonna heat the pool. Oh, does it have a jacuzzi? Oh, okay, well that's gonna cost money too. Solar versus no solar, there's all sorts of other things you have to consider. And the reason we're saying that is because our interest in doing this career is in people acquiring and maintaining homeownership. Not acquiring it and then losing it. That does not that's not what we do this for.
Thing.
So it's important to take heed to this warning or to this notice of saying, hey, like, do your math, do your budget, including all these other ancillary things that you may not be thinking about when you're in the heat of the moment and you're like really into buying this house and you're committed to finishing it and seeing it through. Take a moment, step back, and just sketch out what are those other costs that are going to come along with this place.
So the goal is to just identify what you can truly afford and maintain your current quality of life. And you don't want to be handcuffed to your mortgage. And what that means is you want to be able to own the home, but you also want to be able to go out and have dinner occasionally or, enjoy life and go on vacations. I've seen it many times over where families have owned a home, but they couldn't do anything because they were handcuffed to that mortgage. So yes, we want to make sure that you can truly afford the home that you're purchasing. And if you have any questions or concerns about something you may or may not overlook, please give us a call, text message, or drop a comment below, direct message us, however you feel comfortable reaching out to us. But before you do that, we want to thank you for being here with us today. Please like this video and then have a great rest of your week.